We just got a big new Quest 3 update that unlocks some brand new features, as well as a first look at the next VR headset from Meta. And on top of all that, we got some insane VR game news that you don't want to miss. So let's dive right into it. Now, Mark Zuckerberg has finally released the next software update for the Quest headsets. And with it, we always get some cool new things that truly enhance your VR experience. And the first thing that you might have already noticed is the so-called adaptive lighting. Now, simply put, this basically adjusts the color temperature of your 2D windows so that it matches with the ambient lighting of your physical environment. And this kind of tech is already quite common in things like your phone, for example. However, it is good to keep in mind that this is an always-on feature for everybody that has the latest V79 update or newer. So no matter what, there will be no settings available to toggle this on or off once you have updated your software. But next to that one, we got another big feature, which is an improved Files app. Because until now, when you opened up this application from your home menu, you would simply be greeted with an overview of all your most recent media, as well as have a simple tab for downloads and the location on the side. But luckily, this one now got a lot more advanced. So in addition, you will now also see complete separate tabs for your media, spatial videos, and panoramas. And that could help you organize and find your content a lot quicker. But maybe even better is that they added in a search feature on the top left so that you can quickly find the footage that you're looking for. But another nice improvement that you might already be using is that Meta now finally also released the Spotify web app on the official Quest store. And while until now it was already possible to listen to your Spotify music if you open it up in your web browser, of course, this dedicated app will make it a lot easier, as well as giving you the ability to listen to your favorite songs in the background while you're playing a VR game. But maybe best of all is that next to the music, they also have podcasts available. So that's pretty damn nice. However, the update didn't stop there, because Zuckerberg also introduced a big makeover in their Meta avatars. And this new update should come with a bunch of customizable things that go from your own body type to changing out your outfits and accessories. Now, most notably, the avatar face editor is getting a bunch of new controls for customizing things like your jawline, cheek fullness, and even your facial depth. But probably the biggest change is that people in the US and Canada will get exclusive access to an AI-powered styling tool that upgrades the outfit ideas to the next level. However, sadly this isn't available yet for anyone outside the US or Canada at the moment. So if you're like me, you might have to wait a bit longer for this one. But maybe even bigger news is that the research team of Meta showed off a brand new VR headset. And this one is pretty insane. Because according to their research reports, the goal of this headset is that they want to achieve an ultra-wide field of view, which is the amount of your vision that is actually covered by the screen, but then without having the big trade-off of the form factor. Because while there are already some headsets out there with a big FOV, like the Pimax headsets for example, they are also a lot bigger in size. So this new prototype from Meta is kind of trying to get the best of both worlds. And as a quick comparison, the original Quest 3 has a horizontal field of view of 110 degrees, while this potential next Quest has a whopping total of 180 degrees instead. So that is of course a huge increase, but it might also still be a while till we see this one hit the store shelves. Since with a lot of the other prototypes of Meta, most of them get shelved indefinitely because they are so difficult to make, or since the price of it would just be too high for any consumer to actually get it. So until we get a real Quest 4 announcement, I guess we'll have to wait just a bit longer. And moving on, we also have some insane VR game news that you really don't want to miss. However, before we get into that, let's first have a quick word from the company that made this video possible. Because none other than Cat VR, who are known to create VR treadmills that look like they come straight out of Ready Player One, are taking VR once again to the next level. Because while we normally are limited by the space and boundary system inside our virtual reality experiences, it is Cat VR that has been creating VR treadmills that let you run, crouch, and jump without any limitation. And since their most recent version, that is known as the C2 Core, is compatible with nearly every headset, it is often also considered as the dream upgrade for any VR setup. And they even go so far that for those hardcore fans, they also have high-end models that include things like haptic feedback or a vehicle hub, making it feel even more realistic, like riding on a horse inside VR. And as a cherry on top, you can also use the code VRelity for a $130 discount on your entire purchase. So for those who are interested, I'll leave a link in the description below. And that gets us to the VR game news. And starting it off directly is the new official World War Z VR game. Now, as you might already know, this one is based on the popular franchise behind the hit movie, as well as a handful of flat screen games that followed after that. So of course, the expectations are pretty much off the charts. And while the Quest Store does already have a lot of zombie wave shooters, the gameplay in this case will put a lot more enemies and zombies at the same time on your map that are trying to hunt you down. And it might also be good to know that it will come to the Quest headsets as well as PC VR. So if you want that extra bump in quality, then you might want to check out the Steam version for this. But if instead of zombies, you want to fight against some real opponents, then we got the next big release, which is the Boxing Underdog. Now initially, some of you might know this title as VRSO, Bare Knuckle Fighting, because that was its original name when the developers started to work on this experience. And now finally, after the many years of development, they have released their early access. So to break this down, compared to the other boxing games out there, like Thrill of the Fight and its sequel, Boxing Underdog isn't only a lot more brutal, but it also looks pretty damn good. And from the start, you can practice in training mode and fight in some single player matches. Or you could take it up a level and go for the original bare knuckles all the way. Just keep in mind though, that while this game is still in early access, it also means that you can run into some glitches or that there are still features that are locked behind a future update. Either way, at the moment, it is only live on the Quest headsets, with a future release for PC VR and PlayStation VR 2 planned as well. But maybe most exciting of all is that there is a new upcoming VR MMORPG coming to the Quest headsets. And this one is known as Eldramore, the Haven in the Mist. And that means that in here, you'll be exploring a huge overworld with lots of hidden secrets and bosses, while you're also trying to battle your way through dungeons and wield some awesome magical spells. And another nice thing is that the developers have also mentioned that they will add some more advanced options to the game too. And that can go from player housing to pets, to even the smaller details like being able to glide through the maps or healing up your character at a bonfire. Now if you've been following this channel for a while, then you know how much I love some good VR MMORPG. And while we did get some big projects in the past, like Zenith, they sadly always got shut down in the end after just a couple months of being out. So while I'm still waiting for a big Sword Art Online MMORPG, it is still great to hear that there are some other projects that are trying to make this happen as well. Now just keep in mind though, that Eldramore Heaven in the Mist still has a long way to go before it's fully released. But once it does, I hope that it will be worth the wait. And some other cool game news is that the flat screen point and click adventure known as Siberia is getting a full VR edition on the Meta Quest 3. And without spoiling the story itself, in here you will find yourself in a remote village in the middle of nowhere, and while you will be going on a big search on a mythical island. And that means you'll be solving puzzles, to exploring new locations, and so much more. But that's not all, because there are also a lot of completely free VR games that you have to try out. So click on the video that you see on screen right now to make sure you don't miss out on that. And of course, stay awesome.